ETM Hotel, Rennie Sean. Welcome in peace. My name is Sean. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to Science with Sean, Lafayette, John and Boca. Yeah, what's good with everybody, man? I hope everybody's doing well this morning. Please like the show, share the show, tell a friend, tell a friend. We are live. As you can see, this is a controversial topic. The curious case of ED. Ladies, is this what you want? Like the show, share the show. Is this what you want? I mean, let me know. You know what I'm saying? Let me know if you okay with, you know what I'm saying, um, COVID did. Imma just say it like that. I know children may be watching this, reviewing it or whatnot, and I apologize for the for actually saying that, but is this what you want? Let me know. Come on now, like the show, share the show, tell a friend, tell a friend. I just need to know if this what you want. What up, Robert Rand? What's good? Aronde, what's good? Chavis, I see you in the crew, in the building. Who else we got? Juju, I see you. What's good? What's going on? What up, Lamar? What up, Omar? What's good with everybody, man? I hope y'all having a good day. We early with the lesson. I'm trying to wait to, let a few people get in, man, before we get going. But there's some repercussions of catching COVID. And I kind of said this before for a long time. And I actually been on it for a long time. So what I want to do is open up with a story, maybe about a less than a year ago. Well, it's getting ready to be a year once the year turns, and then we get into maybe March. So earlier this year, around March, there was some science that actually came out that talked about COVID showing up in the semen of men. And at the time, they were trying to figure out if this was a real thing, like if COVID could be transmitted sexually, right? Um, it's a bunch of questions that needed answers. And earlier on, they had evidence of um, the disease showing up in semen. They didn't immediately come to a true conclusion, but they did do studies to of the effect of learning that is this normal or abnormal or anecdotal or whatever. Nah, it's nobody named Ed, bro. Nobody named Ed. But anyway, what up, Infinite? So I was on a show on another panel, and I was actually discussing this reality at the time, and for some particular reason, people thought that this was an actual thing. Then I pulled it up, and it's like, well, they really don't have much evidence for it. Well, um, as the pandemic continued to grow and developments began to emerge, more evidence became relevant, and that evidence began yielding something that the original information was actually stating, that there was an issue with SARS-CoV-2 infecting the body, and the spread of the infectious disease COVID-19 was causing issues in men's pelvic or penis area. This yielded results of erectile dysfunction as a precursor to a natural infection. So no ladies, your man is hasn't just developed something out of the norm, or he doesn't have an interest in you like before. He just can't get it up because he's been infected with COVID and now he has COVID D. So while you're sitting here and you're assuming that he's not interested in you physically anymore, it is not that he isn't, it's not that he is not attracted to you physically. He's just he's just been naturally infected with a novel virus, and the spread of the disease is the repercussions of his uninterested penis in you. That's a reality. I'm gonna say this again for the people who are just now joining the discussion. This is the curious case of ED, erectile dysfunction. So, ladies, is this what you want? We're gonna get into this whole fertility thing with natural infection, and we're gonna pull up some sources, right? Because your boy, I'm candid with the work. So I'm gonna pull up some sources because I don't like to just talk. You know what I'm saying? I like the demonstration beats conversation type of vibe. You know what I mean? But at the same time, ladies, I just wanted to let you know that it's not that your man is not interested in you anymore. It's not. He just can't get it up. Not only he can't get it up, his sperm count is low. There was a question in the chat just a moment ago. Can they still have children? Can they still have babies? Well, the sperm count is low. So, in the description of the video, I possess 4 sources for everyone to actually take a look at. And it's absolutely fine if you don't want to look at the sources, but I am going to put them up on the screen and I'm not going to take up a lot of y'all time. Okay. I just want to deal with the science, right? I want to deal with the science. Now, we're talking Omicron because it's the latest variant and we know about Delta. So I just want to throw this out there. Omicron is no more infectious than Delta. Omicron possesses a few more mutations, but it hasn't been determined to be more severe or less severe than Delta. Um, but the infection rate is increased due to the way the virus mutates or whatever, and it's just a greater at reinfecting. The vaccines are working against it, but we also know that Omicron also possesses the ability to lower your sperm count. We know this based on some research that was actually done regarding fertility and sterility. And yeah, there was a reduce in the sperm count among the participants that were a part of this particular study. And according to Reuters, couples with a desire for pregnancy should be warned that sperm quality after COVID-19 infection can be suboptimal. However, there is a recovery time from the low sperm count. It's about 3 months or so. You might need some follow-up, but we're going to get into it and we're going to deal with it. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I just wanted to give y'all a precursor before we get to cooking. Nah, the Omicron has about 70 total mutations from the original the original virus. But as we learn in virology class that these viruses are supposed, you're gonna have mutations. That's not the fear part. We should not be fearing in anything because viruses mutate. They mutate and adapt. That's common. We shouldn't worry about those things. We need to worry about how if it's more infectious and then the severity of the disease. And if the protection that we have against the infection is still substantial. And that evidence we do have. We know that Moderna is still strong versus Omicron. We know that Pfizer is still strong against Omicron. Johnson and Johnson takes a hit. And by the way, Johnson and Johnson should have always been a two-dose vaccine, according to the data that is available regarding Johnson and Johnson. They said Johnson and Johnson works better as a two-dose regimen than a one dose. So the blue pill is not going to help you. The blue pill lowers your sperm count. So again, ladies, if you're looking to have a baby and you and your significant other are planning to have children, and you know he's had COVID in the last 90 days, um, you might not get pregnant. You might not have no kids. He might not even get erect. And it's not you. You're still beautiful to him. He loves the way you look when you get out of the shower. He loves it when you pull your hair up and you put on your little lingerie for him, and you know what I mean? You set the mood for him and all of those good things. It's just that he can't rise. He can't shoot that 30-foot jump shot right now. His ankles are broken. He can't rise. He's called COVID D. He can't slang the wood. And if you're planning that pregnancy, the sperm count is low now. This is the results of the spread of an infectious disease, which is what a vaccine defends against. The vaccine protects against the spread of infectious disease. Yes, the curious case of the COVID D. See, this is why science matters, because it lets us know what actually is going on with people after the fact. So I do want to say this real quick, and we're going to get into a nice little build. I do want to say this. After a year of studying the pandemic, right? Since this thing kicked off, right? We are officially, you know what I'm saying? COVID was kicking off right around now. This we know of, right? So we know we have a novel disease is spreading and then moving forward. However, there was a lot of science that we didn't have answers to. And as I said earlier, when I took y'all back to March, when I brought up the COVID D, or I brought up the semen, the COVID showing appearing in the semen, people just didn't think that that was just a reality. I can even pull up the show and let you see the comments of people questioning the fact that COVID affecting the D and showing up in the semen was wasn't a reality to most people then. They thought it was just a joke. Many of you that are in the chat right now was in the chat over there when it was being said. I ain't living that down because I knew seriously that one day that more science will come out. And lo and behold, the later we get in the pandemic, the more we determine that it's not you. He just can't get it up. He needs help. And that thing lasts about a few months. For most people, don't have long COVID. Oh my goodness. You're gonna have to go to the toy store. Come on, man. Like the show, share the show, tell a friend, tell a friend. We're about to get it in. All right, so let's deal with the science. So I just wanted to take y'all down memory lane, let you walk with me a little bit, just so people could get in the building, and then we go from there. So I want to go ahead and deal with what I stated before. Sperm quality in the absence of SARS-CoV-2 RNA in semen after COVID-19 infection, a prospective observational study and validation of study sperm COVID tests. So just so people don't think that I'm playing games here, right? There is a study, right, about the contagiousness of sperm and its influence on fertility after recovery from COVID-19. 120 Belgian men who had recovered from proven COVID-19 infection. All right, so let's deal with it. So the main outcome measures sperm quality. This is a typo. Quality was assessed using the WHO criteria. DNA damage to sperm cells was assessed by quantifying the DNA fragmentation index and the high density stainability. Finally, antibodies against SARS-CoV-2 spike 1 antigen. Nuclear and S1 receptor binding domain were measured by ELISA and I can't say this one, chemiluminescent microparticle immunoassays, respectively. So here's your results. We're not going to get too far into the study because we got a lot to discuss. SARS-CoV-2 RNA was not detected in semen during the period shortly after infection, nor at a later time. Mean progressive motility was reduced in 60% of the men tested shortly 1 month after COVID-19 infection. Fathom that. SARS-CoV-2 RNA was not detected in semen during the period shortly after infection, nor at a later time. The mean progressive motility was reduced in 60% of the men tested shortly 1 month after COVID-19 infection. 37% of the men tested 1 to 2 months after COVID-19 infection, and 28% of the men tested 2 months after COVID-19 infection. Mean sperm count was reduced in 37% of the men tested shortly 1 month after COVID-19 infection. 29% of the men tested 1 to 2 months after COVID-19 infection. 6% of those men tested 2 months after COVID-19 infection. The severity of COVID-19 infection and the presence of fever were not correlated with sperm characteristics, but there were strong correlations between sperm abnormalities and the titers of SARS-CoV-2, IgG antibody spike 1, and receptor binding domain of spike 1, but not against nucleotide in serum. High levels of anti-sperm antibodies developed in 3 men at 2.5%. Your conclusion: semen is not infectious with SARS-CoV-2 at week 1 or more after COVID-19 infection, with a mean of 53 days. However, couples with a desire for pregnancy should be warned that sperm quality after COVID-19 infection can be suboptimal. The estimated recovery time is 3 months, but further follow-up studies are underway to confirm this and determine if permanent damage occurred in a minority of men. You heard that. COVID being in the semen is not infectious. It's not infectious. Semen is not infectious with SARS-CoV-2. I've told you this. I said that. It's been determined that it's not infectious. So it's not like an STD. However, if there's a desire for pregnancy, the quality of the sperm is suboptimal. There's an estimated recovery time of 3 months. So if you're a man, ladies, that you are sleeping with, and you are planning to have your first child or another child, or whatever the case may be, you might want to wait 3 months after this infection. He might not even get up. Right, being suboptimal. Look, let's define it. Let's define suboptimal. Let's see if it'll pull up. It's taking a minute. I guess it don't want to load it. Oh man, we ain't gonna get the dictionary. Hey, hold up. All right. Definition of optimal. The world's leading online source dictionary. So I'm trying to actually find it if it's gonna pull up for me. I ain't gonna do a lot. I ain't got time. I'm gonna move on. Y'all know what's up, optimal mean. All right, so let's go on to another case, right? So y'all know, like I stay with the studies, right? So a report 49 growth population distribution of immune escape of Omicron in England. We'll get into this, but I'm gonna beat this up real quick on the ED sperm quality stuff, right? So we got into that. So let's deal with the serum stable RNA optimal specific of SARS-CoV-2 neutralizing viral entry. Okay. So let me my bad. My screen wasn't big, but of course, if you're on your cell phone, you know you got to hit the three dots. You got to go to quality and you got to go to advanced, and you have to change your settings to a better view. Yeah, Ricky. All my sources are always going to be in the description of the videos. So in case you need to pull from any other sources, bro, and I appreciate you tuning in. But if you need to pull from any other sources, you can just click on the links in the description of the video, and you can grab them. But yeah, the very first article that I was reading from is from Science Direct, right here, right. This study was available on yesterday, and this is dealing with fertility and sterility. So that was the very first source that I was reading from. That's in the description. The second one that I'm reading from might be the first one in the description, which is the pnas.org. Okay. For those of you who don't know what the PNAS is, it is the national, it's the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences of the United States of America. All right. So, what's the significance of this particular article? Well, this is developing molecules capable of binding SARS-CoV-2 spike protein and inhibiting viral infection is an utmost importance for the detection and the therapy of COVID-19. Says we have developed and engineered a serum stable RNA aptamer specific for SARS-CoV-2 spike protein. We further showed that the scaffolding three aptamers together, increasing the binding efficacy to the low picomolar range of the enables very efficient neutralization of SARS-CoV-2 infections in cells. The aptamer also shows high affinity for spike protein for variants of concern. Remember, anytime that you see VOD in a study, that's variants of concern. Right now, three leading variants of concern is Alpha, Delta, and Omicron has now been listed as a variant of concern. So, due to its small size and chemical stability, our Optima holds potential as an alternative to antibodies and nanobodies targeting the spike protein. So, in this particular study, and I'm not going to give you too much, but I'll read the abstract and we'll get into some results. I'm part of the abstract because it's long. Um, The severe acute respiratory syndrome, or what we know as SARS-CoV-2 pandemic, has created an urgent need for new technologies to treat COVID-19. So here they report a fluoroprotected RNA aptamer that binds with high affinity to the receptor binding domain. If you're unfamiliar with what we're talking about when it says the receptor binding domain, the examples of that would be like if you hold your arm up and your fingers, and I'm using this as an analogy for those who may not know what I'm talking about. So on the virus, there's the spike. You can't miss it. They've been talking about it forever and ever and ever. But if you use your arm and your elbow would be that your from your wrist to your elbow would be the receptor binding domain, pretty much. It is where the spike attaches and the actual uh, pathogen or virus, that little circular part would be, the connection in between that. That's what the RBDs are, okay, or receptor binding domains. Now, a trimerized version of the RNA aptamer matching the three RBDs, which is receptor binding domains in each spike complex, enhances binding affinity down to low picomolar range. I don't know why I can't say that. Binding mode and specificity for the aptamer spike interaction is supported by bio layer um, interferometry. Now, basically, single molecular fluorescence microscopy and flow induced dispersion analysis in vitro. This is all right. In short, we're focused on the spike and the receptor binding domain. This report is focused on. Let me do this. Dang, I don't want to lose nobody. Uh, Let me see if I can get. Oh, oops, that's wrong. Let me help y'all out. So, as you can see here in all these images here, this may, yeah, these little red things, right? That's what they're talking about. They're focused on these red things are the spikes, but there's a little arm here, and this might not be the best example for you to see it, but I might be able to do it like this. I could use this. This thing right here, this little orange thing that you see, not the top part of it, but the little long part. That's the receptor binding domain. That's what they're talking about in this particular study. For those of you who are new or not and unfamiliar with this particular situation, that's what we're talking about. All right. That's why I said if you look at your arm and your fingers would be the spike, would be the top part, the little red stuff or the little fizzy stuff. So I try to use that as an example to be able to help you understand that the spike is what they use to attach to your cell, right? And it finds its entry point. But the receptor binding domain is what they're looking at for other causations of what the study refers to. So back to here. Now, the severe acute respiratory syndrome of SARS-CoV-2 pandemic in 2020 and 2021 has launched a global quest to find new molecular tools for detection of the virus and treatment of potential deadly disease it causes. COVID-19. Now, despite the exceptional efforts worldwide for contaminant and unprecedented technology progress in vaccine development, the challenge to find an effective cure remains due to the limited access to SARS-CoV-2 vaccines, particularly in developing countries, and the emergence of new viral strands or variants. I don't know why they use the word strands here, that can evade immune responses and potentially compromise the efficacy of current vaccines. Therefore, it is utmost importance to focus efforts on developing affordable and easy to produce antiviral molecules against SARS-CoV-2 infection. So they're just looking at ways to actually develop something. It's a nice little study, right? I wanted to drop that out on y'all to just give you a clear view that they're looking at alternate ways to be able to fight this entire pandemic, right? Because you have some people predicting we may not be in an endemic stage for another 2 years, or it could be a whole another year in a pandemic, and then we hit endemic because the infection rates can increase because there'll be new variants of concern, which of course will be able to escape immune response and infect people. So, as mentioned in the abstract, right, when you're dealing with the spike and the RBD, the receptor binding domain, you kind of understand what's going on now. So when you have those mutations and things of that nature, it tends to lead you in that direction. Not to bore y'all to death, I'm about to keep it all the way interesting. All right. So earlier I had shown this and it talked about the growth population and the distribution of the immune escape of Omicron in England. So the last article that I showed you has precedence because of Omicron's ability to escape the immune system. Okay. So, in the summary of this particular article that was published on the 16th, it says to estimate the growth of Omicron variant of concern, one, and its immune escape 2 through 9 characteristics, they analyzed data from all PCR confirmed SARS-CoV-2 cases in England. So basically, what they did was everyone who was tested, right? All the confirmed cases, they analyzed their data in England. They excluded those with a history of recent international travel. So they segregated people who left out of town and just focused on the people who never left. All right. We undertook separate analysis according to two case definitions. The first definition, they included all cases with a definitive negative S gene target failure, or SGTF, which is a result in the specimen dates between November 29th and November 12th. Just reverse that from the 12th of November to the 29th. All right. For the second definition, it included cases with a positive genotype result between the 12th of November to the 23rd, inclusive. Now, they chose the latter start date for the SGTF definition to ensure greater specificity of the SGTF for Omicron. Their focus is on Omicron. All right. So they used logistic poison regression to identify factors associated with testing positive for Omicron compared to non-Omicron, most cases Delta. They explored the following predictors: the day, region, symptomatic status, sex, ethnicity, age band, and vaccine status. So here's the results. Let me keep that highlighted. It says the results suggest rapid growth of frequency of Omicron variant relative to Delta, with the exponential growth rate of its frequency estimated to be 0.34 day. All right. So that's basically a doubling time over the study period from both SGTF and genotype data. The distribution of Omicron by the age, sex, ethnicity currently differs markedly from Delta, with 18 29-year-olds, residents in London region, and those of African ethnicity having significantly higher rates of infection with Omicron relative to Delta. It says hospitalizations and asymptomatic infection indicators were not significantly associated with Omicron infection, suggesting at most limited changes in severity compared to Delta. That's important. All right. This is how we know that it's not more infectious or severe disease, right? To estimate the impact, I said that a little bit wrong. So this is how we know that it's not as more infectious. Well, it could be more infectious, but it's not severe disease. There we go. So to estimate the impact of Omicron on vaccine effectiveness, and always remember that VE is vaccine effectiveness. For symptomatic infection, we use conditional poison regression to estimate the hazard ratio of being an Omicron case compared with Delta, restricting our analysis to symptomatic cases and matching day by day region, 10-year age band, sex, and ethnicity. This is what they found. Found an increased risk of Omicron case compared to Delta for those with vaccine statuses. We're going to get into that. AstraZeneca, 2+ weeks post dose 2. Pfizer, 2+ weeks post dose 2. And then the AstraZeneca, 2+ weeks post dose 3. And Pfizer, 2+ WPD3 was just 3 doses. All right. Vaccine statuses with higher ratios of 1.86, 2.68, 4.32, and 4.07, respectively, where PD3, which is what post dose 3 states, are categorized by the dose half vaccine used. Depending on the Delta variant, right? I said variant. Delta vaccine efficacy estimates use 10. These estimates translate into Omicron vaccine effectiveness estimates of between 0 to 20% post dose 2 and between 55% and 80% post dose 3 against Omicron, consistent with other estimates. That's a lot. So, basically, to assess the impact of Omicron on reinfection rates, they relied on genotype data since SGTF is associated with a higher observed rate of reinfection, likely due to reinfections typically having higher CT values than primary infection, and therefore being subject to a higher rate of random PCR targets, which is what they test, which fail. Controlling the vaccine statuses of age, sex, ethnicity, and asymptomatic status region and specimen date and using conditional Poisson regression to predict reinfection status. Omicron was associated with 5.41 fold higher risk of reinfection. So to sum up this particular this particular study, it is showing you that Omicron ended up being more infectious than Delta by 5.1 fold higher. However, the risk of disease and things of that nature were not right, more severe. So that's giving you the data on how they came up with this Omicron being more infectious than Delta. So that's a cool little walkthrough. All right. What is this? I don't need that. All right, so let's get back into to all you ladies out there that love men who get the COVID D. Published last night. Omicron infections appear no less severe than Delta, which I just gave you that, and COVID-19 lower sperm count motility. We talked about that. All right. So we do know based on the UK data, there's no less severe based on earlier COVID. Data. So we know this. We got peer review data, certified peer review data regarding it. Now, infections caused by Omicron variant of coronavirus do not appear to be less severe than infectious Delta, according to the early data from UK. Researchers at Imperial College in London compared 11,329 people with confirmed or likely Omicron infections with nearly 200,000 infected with other variants. According to the report issued in a peer review updated on Monday, they see no evidence of Omicron having lower severity than Delta, judged by either the proportion of people testing positive who report symptoms or by the proportion of cases seeking hospital care after infection. For vaccines available for the UK, effectiveness against symptomatic Omicron infections range from 0 to 20% after 2 doses, and 55 to 80% following a booster shot. The report estimated that after taking an individual risk factors into account, the odds of reinfection of Omicron are 5.4 times greater than for reinfection with Delta. The study of healthcare workers in the pre-Omicron era estimated that prior SARS-CoV-2 infection afforded 85% protection against a second infection over 6 months. The researchers said while the protection against reinfection by Omicron afforded by past infections may be as low as 19%. Now we back to the sperm. Just so y'all know, I just don't be talking. The sperm count motility may be low for months after COVID-19. Sperm quality is impaired for months for some people after recovery from COVID-19, researchers have found. All right, so the semen itself was not infectious, the researchers found, but among 35 men who provided samples within a month after recovery, the data that I gave you earlier indicated that there was evidence of reduction in the sperm motility were evident in 60% of the men. And the sperm count was reduced in 37% of the men. As reported on Monday in Fertility and Sterility, which is the article that I showed you that comes up out of Fertility and Sterility, semen samples were obtained by 120 Belgian men. I'm not going to go over that. We just went over that. However, let's get more specific. Couples with a desire for pregnancy should be warned that sperm quality after COVID-19 infection can be suboptimal. The estimated recovery time is 3 months, but further follow-up is requested. Neutralizing a molecule could be cheaper than antibodies, so they're looking at solutions. So, an experimental molecule that neutralizes coronavirus in the same way antibodies do would appear to be cheaper and easier to manufacture, researcher says. Now, what I showed you initially in this study is the attached explanation to deal with the RBD. Rob called me crazy, man. My bad, man. I apologize. But the truth of the matter is this, double R, is that we know that SARS-CoV-2 infects. We know that it turns into the disease we know as COVID-19. That's a fact. We know the disease spreads. The infectious disease spreads throughout the body. So if you don't have any protection, the disease is spreading. And it takes you a while to honestly um to recover, right? There's a recovery rate that's in there. The spread of the disease could be severe or it could be mild. This is what they mean by asymptomatic. That means you had an asymptomatic response to the spread of the infectious disease, and therefore it wasn't severe. But that doesn't mean that the severity, well, the asymptomatic response was a positive for you and that you can't be reinfected and it be more severe, or vice versa. So kind of goes both ways there. But what yields from that is what are the long-term effects from the asymptomatic response from your bout with COVID? And lo and behold, you have an asymptomatic response, but then all of a sudden your woman is rubbing on your manhood and you're unable to become erect. She's going to think that you're not attracted to her no more. And all the while, you got the COVID D. And then if you're planning on getting a child, you might not be as fertile as you was before. Your sperm count is low. These are not me. This is not me. This is purely science. But what I'm trying to show y'all, and I know I kind of glanced over it real quick and I jumped back to Article 1 and dealing with the PNAS. But for those of you who are just now joining it, it is a real thing. Listen, erectile dysfunction is a real thing in men who are naturally who catch the disease. Right? There's a percentage of men in this world who will develop erectile dysfunction. There's a high percentage of men that will lose sperm. You have a reduction in your sperm count and you'll develop erectile dysfunction. Now, the sperm count uh, reduction, they're saying could be a fixable thing after 3 months. So the erectile dysfunction problem that you developed could also occur and recover itself after 3 months. I don't know. They still need more tests, and they're requesting that. They need further follow-up studies, which are underway to confirm this and determine if permanent damage is done to a minority of men. So, ladies, if you're sleeping with the minority of men who fall under the category of COVID D, I don't know what you're gonna do for a few months. But if it's been determined that there's a long-term effect from it and there's long-term damage from it, and it's personal at that point. It's your relationship. Ain't no clearing no virus. It's over with. He said COVID deboner. Yeah, man. It's a 3-month recovery period. What am I saying here? Why am I even saying this? I'm saying this because if you just get vaccinated, you protect yourself from the spread of infectious disease. And one of the many symptoms that SARS-CoV-2 possesses the ability to bring with it, your body defends itself against it. The vaccine has a better protection rate than the natural infection. Why? Because the vaccine trains your immune system to recognize the spike protein in which this virus possess. A fatty spike. And what natural infection does, it doesn't train your body, it doesn't train your immune system to recognize the spike. It doesn't. So it makes you more susceptible to reinfection depending on the variant of concern. This is why Delta was 2.3 fold. And this is why Omicron is 5.4 fold greater than Delta, meaning that you're highly more likely to be reinfected from Omicron. And one of the symptoms that comes along with Omicron is a low sperm count as well as erectile dysfunction. When I told people earlier when we looked at the study and I said that there's 256 symptoms that SARS-CoV-2 causes, people couldn't fathom that because the average person may develop 51 symptoms. And and then some less because they have an asymptomatic response. But then the asymptomatic thought that they were in the clear. Oh, I caught the disease, I got some type of protection. No, we only found out that 36% of the people who have been naturally infected out of that what's the recovery rate? Um let's look at the recovery rate. If I could pull it up. Nah, I don't want to deal with that. How many people got COVID? Uh, just want to look at some numbers real quick. So there's 275 million or whatever, 5 million deaths. Look at this. On December 20th, there was 763,000 cases. Let's change that to the US. Dang it. Let's see what the US did. So, all right. So, this is what I'm talking about, y'all. Like the infections rates, they increased because if we go back beyond this, look, we wasn't seeing we wasn't seeing it like that. We ain't know the triple digits has been all late November and December. Let me see if it'll take me back 3 months on this map. All right. And this is in the United States. And now we back up almost 300,000. Now the deaths will follow this surge, the deaths will follow. But anyway, basically what I'm saying here is that 36% of the people who recover from SARS-CoV-2 don't develop any, well, I wouldn't even say, yeah, recover. They don't develop any type of protection. They don't develop any type of protection at all. So you can do the math on the recover. 247 million people recover from SARS-CoV-2. 724,124 divided by 30. So that's 8 million people who don't develop any type of protection. So they're susceptible to reinfection. Now, what yields reinfection could possibly be something severe, something so severe as like death and stuff like that, or sickness, or greater sickness. Yeah. Let me see what y'all saying in the chat real quick. But the moral of the story is this: the curious case of erectile dysfunction is real. So, ladies, is this what you want? The more women who are, and I'm saying this, it's kind of sexist, but it's kind of like the truth. But if women stop going to church, the men are starting to church. No lie, on everything I love. That's a fact. If women go get vaccinated, what happens? The men go get vaccinated. But if the women ain't going, then the men ain't going. That's the influence of the power of the P. However, um, the truth of the matter is very simple. What up, Roster? Erectile dysfunction is a issue for men. Now, remember, diabetic men listen. This is I sold diabetic supplies to people before. For people who don't know me, I sold diabetic supplies, and to the men, I was always sell them a penis pump, right? Because men who have diabetes will develop and suffer from erectile dysfunction at some point of their life. Diabetes will influence erectile dysfunction. Well, you have a virus called SARS-CoV-2 that causes erectile dysfunction when the disease spreads. Well, COVID-19 spreads, that's one of the symptoms, erectile dysfunction. Now you know that you have confirmed cases of erectile dysfunction from COVID-19 infections and a lower sperm count. And if you're looking to start a family, you need to wait about 90 days. But they still researching that because they don't know if there's long-term damage. They only know from the evidence that they have right now that this thing is at least 3 months out. So in the minority of men who develop the symptoms, who develop this issue, they don't know if that's going to be a long-term effect, and that number can grow. Pure Black says, can't afford to have COVID in my balls. Yo. Yeah, the power of the P is real. But I know some of y'all joined late, man. But I just wanted to kind of let people know what's actually going on in the world, and just to bring you a little bit of science. There's some other interesting conversations that actually transpire and take place. However, I just hadn't got the time to really get into it. Um, I was really focused on my the history of HBCU football presentation that I did the other day. If you haven't watched that, please check that out. I know most of you haven't. Roster Man says, got me effed up. I'm about to get all the vaccines. I can't afford it. Hey, appreciate Sean. You just riding around with a trunk full of penis pumps. That's nasty work, yeah. Nah, man, I work for a diabetic supply company, man, and I took phone calls, and I was refilling their orders, right? Their strips and new meters and things of that nature. And most of these people, they already got the insurance on file and all of that, so it's just a click of a couple of buttons or whatever. But with the men, I would have a further conversation, because with the men, like, seriously, if it was people suffering from that, and as a man, from man to man, like, I think it was harder for women to sell them to men. I don't know, because how could you have that conversation and then not get sexual? But for men, I would just try to slide my way into it. Like, also, sir, I wanted to bring to your attention that we also, I would say something real slick. You know what I'm saying? And I had my little introduction or whatever. And I said, I had a little script in my mind. I was like, I had the statistics, so I would kick the statistics. Sir, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but blah 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 amount of people would develop erectile dysfunction. We actually have a solution for the problem. We now offer blah 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 blah, and I would sell it to them like that, and you know what I mean. They would be like that. Now, for most people that I talk to regarding the penis pumps, you know what I'm saying. I would try to make it a laughable thing, but an enjoyable thing, and most of the time, women called in for their husbands to get the refills, and I would have a conversation with the women. And she said, "Yeah, you need to." I had women literally tell me like, "Yeah, you need to send me that because I want his stuff to continue to work." Or you know what I'm saying? Yeah, we've been having some issues like that. Like they will open up about those issues, and we, had that little minor conversation, but um, it was a reality. But my whole thing is that now I knew that. You know what I'm saying? I knew that that was caused by diabetes, but we're talking about a virus now that we have a vaccine for that can prevent this. The vaccine prevents hospitalizations, deaths, right? And the spread of infectious disease. We have a vaccine for that. But we have a level of ignorance that doesn't know this. So all the super conscious, super woke folk running around here talking about I got some herbs. You ain't got no herb for erectile dysfunction. Where's the herb that cures erectile dysfunction? Put it in. Somebody put it in the chat. Who got it? Where you at, African Emporium? What herb you got that can cure erectile dysfunction? You a Sabiite. What up, Sunline? Yeah, and I ain't even got to that, bruh. The vaccine causes diabetes. The virus, one of the many symptoms is also diabetes. So listen, twofold. Not only does the virus cause erectile dysfunction, it also can trigger diabetes. Nah, yeah, the virus does, not no vaccine. So we have a vaccine that prevents all of these things from transpiring in your body. So why would you, you know, run through that? All right, so look, peep this, y'all. On January the 7th, Eastern time, which will be 6 Central. Let me get a date. Hold up. January 7th. That's a Friday. Oh, that's perfect. So on January 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, I will be on Chill Talk. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that Chill is gonna have Dr. Co. Shout out to Dr. Co. I think he's gonna have available. So I need everybody January the 7th in the building for that. Look for that flyer, look for that tag, look for all that to circulate when it comes transpires. But let me see what else y'all got going on in the comment section. Ladies, again, if you are a female and you're in this chat, if you have a man who is unvaccinated and you've noticed that he's been having problems with bringing the thunder, or he's feeling a little unconfident, and he's had COVID before, well, there's information out there that COVID-19 causes erectile dysfunction and lower sperm count. So, your solution to that would be to wait 90 days. Yeah, the bull. If you can no longer ride the bull, and this just occurred, your man may have SARS-CoV-2. He said he's lost the hormones of the bull. Yo, he crazy. If you tell him he got COVID D, he go get that shot. Oh yeah. COVID D is a reality, ladies. COVID D is a reality. So we have to be very cautious and careful with what's actually transpiring, even with the data. So, but look, in the description of the video, all the sources for anyone who want to go back, research, read it, and do a little bit of digging on their own and confirm some of these things. We do have a lot of instances of, erectile dysfunction occurring from the infection. All right. So COVID-19 symptoms continued the list of symptoms, side effects from the infection uh, are greater than uh, those little small side effects you get from having a vaccine. So you want to get vaccinated. I'll just tell you that. I would rather have a sore arm and feel a little feverish after a day than to not be able to, you know, handle my business. And again, for any of you who have had Johnson& and Johnson, I would highly recommend that you have a second dose. But I am looking for some herbalist to tell me what herb do you have that um, can cure erectile dysfunction or treat erectile dysfunction. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they with all the sayings. But man, I see that we got some more people in the building. What we're actually having a conversation about is the curious case of erectile dysfunction. This is being caused by COVID-19. There's developing news that also, well, based on information that was published Monday, which was yesterday, there was evidence that a minority of men, right, um, will suffer from sperm motility, and erectile dysfunction is a reality. And there was a reduction in sperm motility was evident in 60% of the sperm counts, and then there were reduced in 37% of the people that was a part of this particular study in a fertility and sterility test published on Monday. And the question was asked, well, what about people who are trying to get pregnant? And it says couples with a desire for pregnancy should be warned that sperm quality after COVID-19 infection can be suboptimal, the researchers concluded. The estimated recovery time is 3 months, but further follow-up studies are underway to confirm this and to determine if permanent damage occurred in the minority of men. So we want to make sure, right, that we know the data. This is what it says. There's some other things that I would like to talk about. We talked about is Omicron more infectious and all of that stuff. For those of you who were worrying about kids younger than 5 years and old, the phase 2 and 3 trials for 6 months to 5 years of age was halted. Um, there was two things about it. The vaccine was safe in children 6 months to 5 years of age, was dumb safe. The problem is there was no severe events that occurred in that group. The vaccine dosage worked for kids between 6 months and under 2 years old, but it didn't work for the kids that were over 2 and between 5. It failed. So they halted it. So they have to get the dose regimen correct, right? For children of those between those age groups. So I'm gonna say that again so there's no confusion. Pfizer did a study of phase 2 and 3, which they halted for kids 6 months old to 5 years old. All right. The wins was the fact that the vaccine was safe in the age group. There was no severe events occurred at all. The vaccine dosage only worked for kids between 6 months to 2 years of age. The vaccine dosage didn't work for kids 2 to under 5 years old. Now, what they did was they give a 30 UG dosage to adults. It was 16 and older. The kids between 6 and 12 or whatever, they get like a 10 UG dose. These children, they went all the way down from 6 months to 5. They went down to a 3 UG dosage. So I think now the dose amounts are 3 UG, 10 UG, 20 UG, and 30. But they got to find a medium for the kids that are between 6 months and 5. They have to find the correct dose usage. Now they could say, all right, we're going to stick to the dose usage for children between 6 months and 2 years. That needs to be at 3, and then we can go to 5, or maybe the kids that are 3 and older can get that. That would be the measured dosage for those, and then we can see what happened from there. But they halted it, and they're going to resume the study. They just have to go back to the drawing board. They thought the sweet spot was going to be a 3 UG sample, and it didn't protect the kids that was over 2 years of age. Some, so just to be more specific, they just felt like it was the incorrect dosage from 2 to 5. It wasn't detected earlier on in the stage 1. So I'm gonna give you that. Let me put that on the screen. I'm just sitting here rambling. I can put it on the screen and we could talk about it. I know y'all don't want to look at the logo. What let me see what it said. Horny goat weed. I'm gonna do this and then I'm gonna get up out of here. All right. So what went wrong in the study? The 3 UG dosage was incorrect for 2 to 5 years of age. But why wasn't it detected in phase 1 dosage finding stage? The local epidemiologist doesn't know. No one knows because the data has not been publicly released or published. So that's why don't nobody know. So there were some points of interest here that would include the many questions that would surround it. And I'm not really going to get into those particular questions, just knowing that the 3 UG dosage for 2 to 5 years of age didn't work. Why wasn't it detected early on would be, did Pfizer test another dosage in addition to 3 UG in phase 2 and 3? Was the phase 1 age distribution skewed? What variant did they test? And what was the antibody response? So what happens now, without, Pfizer's going to their plan B. They'll use the same kids from phase 2, 3 trials, and which would make it easy for them, and they'll just deal with it. I would probably think that they would increase the dose usage from kids 2 to 5 and leave it, like I said earlier, with the children that were 2 and below. So we'll see what the data says about that, and we'll actually be able to have more of a conversation about vaccinating the kids that are that young who need to be vaccinated because there's some serious issues there. And just so Chill's trying to lock down Dr. Cole right now. Just let me know that. But again, on January 7th, which is a Friday, I'll be on Chill Talk. Hopefully with Dr. Cole, we'll be talking about what the book What SARS-CoV-2 Taught Me. If you haven't read up on it, make sure you get your copy of the book so that you're abreast of the conversation when we have it. But also more importantly, that you're, educating yourself and helping your family. Again, the link is in the description of the video. All the sources are in the link of the description of the video. I appreciate everybody for tuning in today. Please like the show, share the show, tell a friend, tell a friend. If you have not, I repeat, if you have not checked out the last presentation that I did, which was the importance of HBCU football, HBCU football and its importance or relevance today. If you haven't watched that, that's one to actually watch, share with your kids, family members, and friends. There's a lot of history into that. Then we'll go from there. But man, look, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Thank y'all again. Like the show. Oh, by the way, somebody just got their vaccine today. They hit me up, and they had COVID before. I ain't gonna tell you who it is, but I'm gonna give it to you. Yeah, Ben, that what you posted, I read that earlier. But yeah, we got a brother who was infected and finally got his dosage, his shot today. So shout out to him. But yeah, again, man, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Like the show, share the show, tell a friend, tell a friend. We keep the science, history, culture, traditions, all that over here. If you're not subscribed, it's your first time tuning in, subscribe. Please subscribe. Click the bell for notifications. We get into everything that help advance our people over here. And we hella Pan-Africanists. Peace.